Hi, everyone. Um, I am waiting for my guest to come on, and then I will get started. I'm just waiting to see her name pop up. So, hi, Danielle. We're still waiting on Michelle to join. She was getting a straw for her monster, so she needs that caffeine as much as I do. Hopefully that's her, and I'll see her pop up here in just a second. There's Kathy. Hi, Kathy. Hello, Michelle. Welcome, welcome,
Hi,
welcome.
hi.
So, welcome everyone to the first ever live broadcast of Sheer Will. Sheer Will is a podcast created for men and women where we speak our truth so that you can live yours. And I just want to thank everyone for, I got picked up more subscribers with the last airing of the You Are Not Done episode. So, thank you so much for that continued support. Appreciate it. This is not a business venture for me. It's just something that I'm passionate about and that I feel like God put on my heart. I think that by sharing our experiences and struggles and how we worked through them and use those to bring us to where we want to be, we can help other people as well by sharing. So Michelle graciously accepted my invitation to be my first ever guest. Michelle and I have worked very closely together probably since October of last year. I met her in a
hmm
coaching group for my online business, and she was in there for her online business, and we very quickly became fast friends. She jumped in and supported me. Hi, Jeannie. Hi, Annie. She jumped in and helped support me when I had chemo last year. And then when I had the crazy idea to start a business coaching group, I asked her to partner with me. And she graciously accepted that too. So we're finding our groove there as well. So thank you so much, Michelle, for coming on.
Hi, thank you for asking me. I'm like, I'm trying to share too.
So are you nervous?
Yeah, because it's so weird. Yesterday you asked me, you were like, do you want the questions? And I was like, no, I'm just gonna play it off the cuff and let's just roll with it. And then I
Mm-hmm.
find um all morning I was like, well, what is she gonna ask me? Like in my head, it was like all of a sudden I was like all these questions in my head. Well, what is she gonna dig into and how far are we gonna go? And I don't have any tissue on my desk. No,
Do you got tissue now?
no, I got a napkin underneath
I
my
need to grab a
monster.
paper towel because I'll be sitting out here doing this. All my makeup's going to be
I
wet
hope
off.
not. I hope that's not the case.
It would be
Um,
happy tears
and
anyway.
I am
So,
trying to share this, so I am here. So go
okay.
ahead, shoot. I'm listening. I'm good, but we are about sharing and getting people on. So
That's
I'm
good.
good.
I sent a broadcast out. I mean, but this will go live to Google Podcasts, Spotify, all the places. And it'll also be available on the YouTube channel for Share World Podcast because,
Whew,
yeah, we got that too. So,
everything. Got it
okay.
all.
So, to start out, why don't you tell everyone where you come from and what you want to share? And then, you can rip the band aid off now, or I can yank it off for you in a few minutes. It's up to you.
I always suck at ripping the band-aid. I'm the kind of person who stands in the shower and lets it get really, really wet and hope it falls off by itself. So you're gonna
Right.
have to rip the band-aid because
Okay.
I was
Well, tell us a little bit about um, where you're from originally, what life was like for you earlier. Thank you so much, Jeannie.
thank you,
What
Jeannie.
life was like for you earlier on, and just a little bit of your background, where you come from, that kind of thing.
How far back do you want to go? Remember, I'm gonna be 49. We could be here forever.
Well, just broad strokes from like, usually girls start getting in trouble around 16, so 15, 16.
Actually, okay. So let's dig deep into when girls started getting in trouble. I'm from a small town originally, so like where I grew up in Coachella, which is really well known now because of all the concerts and stuff, and it's grown in the valley and Palm Springs and stuff. But back in the 70s, it was really small. So I was born in 1970, first Earth Day ever, and growing up was I had an ideal childhood. Knock on wood. My parents were great. We lived next door to my grandparents. Like it was just I loved my life, right? And who could? I mean, you're a kid. That's what you want to do is you want to enjoy life. You want a good time. But when you talk about, at 16 more for me, it was like 10 or 12, you know, look at those eyes, but not in the way. I know. Okay, so like right around 12, I think I started having the first couple drinks, probably had my first cigarette. Mom was kind of working full time, so she wasn't able to she was like strict. Don't get me wrong, that Latina mama is on it. Like you are not going anywhere, doing anything, homework done, house is clean. And I still found a way to, get my little in there and still she kept me on task. So
Right.
I hung out with kids that were always older than me, stuff like that. And I think part of that helped me growing up. I matured much quicker. And that attributed to my career, I think, because then I started my career way young. And if we want to jump ahead through high school and all that stuff and whatever, I started my retail career in the luxury end at 21, which is very young to start in the luxury end without a clientele. And so I was very fortunate to have a manager at the time say, I'm going to bring you on. And this was for St. John. I used to work for St. John Knits. And this is when they were privately owned. The Grays, who were the owners, would come into the store. Like we were dealing with the owners of the company at the time. Now they're public and they're this huge, industry. But I was with
Right.
them when they were very still small. And she's like, I'm going to take a chance on you. And, I've been very fortunate she did because that's where I really started. I started at the age of 21 in the luxury retail industry. And that's all I know. Like, I don't know anything other than that, which I'm very, knock on wood, but it's been very lucky, to not have done that. So yeah, I started a little bit young, but it helped me in the long end, I think. And I didn't get into crazy trouble, just the usual stuff. But.
Okay. So, you just talked about what your teen years were like. So we're going to skip over that and come back to that as the last question.
Yeah.
Let's talk about relationships.
Okay.
Have you been married? How's your relationship history been?
Married and divorced. Okay, but my married and divorced, we were together 11 years. We did it backwards. Like we were together. I was 19. He turned 21. We were together. We bought the house. We had the kids, and then we got married. And then a year later, we were divorced.
Oh wow.
But that's okay. It's like at the time it was devastating to me because we were still young. We had 2 kids. We had the house. We had the cars. Like we had that ideal lifestyle. And then at the time, and then it happens, and you're like, it was like a death for me. It was like really, he ended up cheating on me. I found out, and literally it was like death for me. And I think a lot of it too is I was raised Catholic, and my hesitation to get married was the fact that I didn't want to get divorced because my grandmother instilled in us, and we were really rich in faith, was like, these are your sacraments. Marriage is a sacrament, and divorce is not an option. And so when he did that to me, it not only devastated me, like that was gone, but also I felt like I was breaking faith with what I knew and what I loved. So it was a bit, it encompassed way more than just, the fact that he had cheated or whatever, or my marriage was over. But it was also the religious aspect of it. It was like the biggest thing I'd ever dealt with at that time in my life was my divorce. But in the long run, retrospectively, it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me too.
So do you
And
guys have
then
a good relationship now?
now we do. Oh yeah, I talked to his new wife, and yeah, it's all good. You know, you have to with kids. Like you can't not. It just makes it too hard. You know, to try to do things and deal with things, and sports and school and activities and graduations and all that stuff. I mean, we all
Right.
had Alec just graduated 2 Junes ago, last June, and we all had dinner together. All of us. So I think for my son, that's like the best thing is that he doesn't have to choose where to go. Like he knows we're all going to be there to support him. So yeah, it took him a while. I had no problem with it, but it took him a while to learn to deal, to be accepting of the fact that it's okay, you know.
Okay. So
I
all
don't
of
know
your
what I mean.
all your children are from your
No,
marriage? No.
no,
Okay.
no. So I've got two older boys, Alec and Brennan. They are off. One graduated from college. The other one is living. They both live in San Diego now. They've left the valley. I sent them go, 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 go. Leave the little desert and go live life, right? And
Right.
then I had another uh, relationship about 10 years later, and then I ended up having Ro. So Ro is like 12, and then Brandon's turning 21. Like I've got that gap in kids. I got that big
Like
gap
psych,
in
I'm not
between.
done.
Huh?
Like psych, I'm not done. Just kidding.
Right? Oh yeah, it's not done. Here we go. So he'll actually be going into middle school next year. So yeah, I've still got a small one in the house. Totally different.
So how is your relationship with his father? Tell me some
Much
history about that.
better. Oh, you know, okay, so we talk about on our coaching group and in our our businesses, we talk about why I wasn't public for a long time, and it was really because of him. Like he had a way of being able to stalk and find what I was doing, and just anytime I had plans, he'd crush it, or he just wasn't. I don't even know how to explain it, and I don't bash him now because I do believe people can change if they find out. Like if you yourself internally can figure out what your problem, like what you're dealing with, and fix that, I believe people can change. He has, and so now lately, like within the last 6 months to a year, or 6 months really, things have been very nice. We get on the phone together, we talk to Ro together, we co-parent, even though he lives in Los Angeles, I'm here. We do co-parent. Like we don't make one decision, we make it together, or if I've got issues, we get on the phone road together, so it's been nice that he's found his happy spot because it's made things much easier for us, as a family, and with Ro especially, because he's at
Right.
that age. He's definitely, you hear my tales with Ro, where he's at that age.
We're getting there, girl. We're getting there.
I know.
We're gonna get there.
I know,
So
I
tell
know.
me about what are some of the struggles in your life that shaped where you're at currently today, and would you change any of them?
I think the biggest struggle I ever had is being a single mom because it's such a different world, especially when you go from not being one and having two incomes and having the cars and the lifestyle, and then all of
Right.
a sudden, then it's ripped away, and now you're finding out that you have to be on your own. Now, granted, luckily, I saw my mom go through that, and
Right.
so she raised us, my sister and I, to be able to take care of yourself. Like, don't rely on a man. Like, make enough money to support yourself, make enough money so you're never in that situation,
Right.
And luckily, at that time, I was a human resource manager for Saks Fifth Avenue, so I was making decent money. But I had to adjust. Like I went from two incomes to one income to paying rent and not a mortgage. My rent was more than the mortgage. Two
Right.
kids, trying not to, keep them out, keep them in school, keep everything as normal as possible while I'm going through this whole transition. But then I went into single mommy mode where there were just days like he was like financially he wasn't as supportive. And so there were days where I would tell my kids, like, look, we've got $20. We're going into the grocery store because everything else had to get paid, car insurance, rent, you know, and this is, don't ask me for the Doritos, we're going to get the, store brand. And my kids had to make that adjustment, also. It was like, what? Or hawking things to make my rent, and still working full time to make sure I supported people. And then that's when it was like, okay, I need to up my game. I need to make more money. I need to not ever feel like I'm in this position again. And so, things just kind of progressed from there. And I became a hustler. I knew I was corporate wise. I knew what I did and what I liked, and this was what I enjoyed. But then all of a sudden, a trigger went off. Was like, no, you're not going to be there. And again, hey, Ruby, you've got to get your hustle on, and you've got to, make do for yourself, because I don't want to go back to looking for change in my car again to make sure I've got enough money for gas.
Right.
And oddly enough, I thought I would be the only one going through it, but I've made a lot of friends that are like, no, Michelle, like you're not the only one. Like, we know what it's like to live paycheck to paycheck, and sometimes paycheck to second paycheck, because, you
Going
got to do what
hungry
you
so
got to
your
do.
kids have enough to eat.
Yeah, and my son, I mean, like, my son got into high school, and it was like he was all into baseball. And my mom will tell you, like, I would make cookies a night and sell them to get money to make sure he had money to go to his games on the weekend. Or, I would clean houses. Like, I would do what I have to do on top of everything else to make sure that I had what I needed. And I would always tell my kids at some point, don't worry, you do what you want to do and let me figure out the money. Because they would be like, oh, no, we can't afford it. Oh, no, no, no. You do what your dream is and let me worry about that. And I would hustle. Like, I would work full time and turn around and go make 2 or 3 dozen cookies and sell them. And I would turn around and go clean a house, or, whatever I had to do to make sure that my kids didn't feel it. And so it just makes you stronger, I think, as a person. And also it's a good reminder where you don't want to go back to,
Right.
like, and sometimes, life changes and things happen. And sometimes you fall back into that mode, not by any choice of your own, and you go back into the hustle mode again. So, makes you stronger. But it's crazy. Single mommyhood, like, or single dads, they know,
Right.
it's not easy, especially nowadays. It's so not, it's not easy at all. Dogs, sorry.
Every single time.
Right? Never fails. They know that life
Every
button.
single time.
Hi,
So,
Ruby. Hi, Cynthia.
tell me what your biggest pivotal moment has been in your life.
My most difficult moment in my life.
No, pivotal. Pivotal.
Physical.
No, pivotal.
Pivotal.
Yes.
I think
What
it
was
was my divorce. When I was married, I was working full time as an HR manager. I had this corporate lifestyle, but then I was also the housewife, the cooking. I would get up at 4, cook, clean. I would go to bed with a spotless house. So it was like 2 full-time jobs.
Right.
So, and I was happy, but I didn't realize that there was more. And not until my divorce did a lot of doors open up for me, corporate wise. And I was able to travel. I was able to, like, make decisions for myself that I didn't have to worry about somebody else, just my
Hi,
kids.
Cynthia.
Hi, Cynthia. Hi, Hope.
I
And I
hope.
think the biggest move I made was when I actually left the desert and worked for Tiffany and Company. Like, I didn't even get, like, when I went to go work for them, like, I didn't even get the gist of the level of my job till I got there and somebody woke me up and said, do you realize what you're doing? And I was like, no, what? Like, at the time, they weren't public. They weren't on the stock exchange. We hadn't had the recession. So retail was still at a real high. And the money they paid me to do that job, I was shocked. And the experience I had was a lifetime experience that I'll never, I'm thankful for. And to be able to say that I did the things and saw the things that I did, I never would have done with my divorce. And it's funny because I tell my ex, what, thank you. Thank you for everything. It sounds horrible to say, thank you for cheating on me. Thank you for the divorce. And he's like, that's just messed up. And I'm like, no, I think you need to realize that everything I've done now in life, I never would have gotten that opportunity had we stayed married. Not to say that
Right.
life would have been good married, but just so many doors and so many opportunities and so many people I met, and the lessons I've learned and the education that I got, experience. It's not that going to school and books You know, it's the actual experience I've gotten. You know, I've sold $185,000 diamond. How many people can say that?
Right.
You know, I used to put diamonds on my hands that cost more than the house I lived in. You know, how many people can say that? Or I
Right.
used to be able to order in diamonds and for customers in a private office. Like it just was amazing to me. And the environment, they treated me well, and it was like a family, and it was quite an experience. And I never would have been able to do that. And it changed my hustle again to like, oh my God, there's so much more out there than just this. Hold on.
Okay.
Hey, no,
Every time, girl.
never fails.
Every time.
Never ever fails.
Okay, this is one that's probably going to be a little bit difficult. Well, it's a difficult one for me, but we'll see what you do with it. What was your
Okay.
biggest failure? What is your
My
biggest
biggest,
failure?
um, I don't know. I think my biggest failure was not planning my move right when I left for Tiffany. Um, because I literally had to move from Southern California to Northern California, which was an 8-hour drive, 350 miles away, no family, and my kids were young, like kindergarten and second grade, with no support up there, right? And it wasn't the money that was the issue, it was the support system that I didn't realize I had till I left. And then I get up there and realize that my kids couldn't come right away because there was no room for them in schools. I was
Oh,
like,
wow.
oh, and so that I had never been without my kids. And so to leave them behind was like one of the hardest things I'd ever did was pack up my car, make arrangements for this day here, and leave without them. Like I was like, where did I really felt like a horrible mother because I was like, how did I not like see this coming? And how are you leaving your kids behind? Like, how is that even like an option? But in the long run, it was like, it was what was necessary to give them a better life. So
Right.
it took 3 months before I could get them up there because the school systems were just amazing up there, but there was just no room. Like I had
Right.
to wait. And there, I commuted. I can tell you days where I would leave on Friday, drive 8 hours, come home, see my kids, and then leave again on Sunday for 8 hours. It was just crazy. But it's do what you have to do. And I felt like horrible when I told them, I had to tell them, like, you can't come. Like that was just the worst feeling ever to say to my
Yeah.
kids, I'm sorry, I can't bring you right now. Like that threw me for a freaking loop. For those 3 months were the worst. And I had never lived on my own ever at that point. So then I was going through that lonely kind of like, where are my kids? What am I doing? I don't know anybody here, but you just get through it. And then when I got them up there, it was just like a whole nother life. Like it was just the best feeling to get them there. But I think the fact that I didn't plan, I was gonna cuss. I didn't plan things out the way I should have, or maybe I
This
just
is a
didn't,
podcast page. Just keep it PG. It'll be good.
I'm like, oops, I almost cussed. But it's like I felt like I failed my kids, and that's a horrible, horrible feeling to feel.
Right.
And at that age too, like it wasn't like they were older and could understand. All they knew was where'd she go and why are we still here.
Yeah. It's okay. Now you're gonna make me cry. I'm doing good. But
See,
they
why
made
do you do that?
I asked you if you wanted the questions. They know that
Okay.
mom loves them. It was 3 months. If you talk to them about those 3 months right now, it's probably not that huge of a deal to them.
No, it's to them, they probably don't even like,
Yeah, like we blow it out of proportion, right?
oh
Because
God,
to
yeah.
us, it's everything, but to them, it's nothing. Like when when I was waiting to convert from because I became disabled while I was working at Dell, while I was waiting to convert from long-term disability to Social Security disability and my long-term disability that the company was going to pay me, we had like 6 months where I had no money coming in. We were living on savings. And I mean, I was going to the food bank and getting groceries to feed
Hmm.
my kids. And I was going without. And I felt like I was doing so terrible. And I talked to them about it. Now they're like, what? We used to eat good.
I think like I
So
remember
they
like
don't remember those things, but we
yeah,
carry it really hard. You know what I mean?
yeah. I remember I used to go through the I was so I felt so guilty. I would just send them stuff like and the it was nice to be able to be in a position where I could afford to buy them stuff, you know? And so, you know, to have them go and be able to send them the stuff that I couldn't do before, it was just a bad thing, but a good thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so, yeah, like you said, maybe they don't. Maybe they don't get it or they don't see it, you know, for what it was, but it was a difficult time for me. And,
Right.
you know, making that decision was like to go was hard because, you know, I called and talked to my parents and, you know, it's typical of one saying, go do it. What do you've got to lose? You can always come home. And
And the
another
other one
saying,
said, nope.
the other one saying, I sure hope you know what you're doing.
Right.
You know, so it was like, what? Like, you know, can't, you know, it's just, and I made the decision and it was the best decision I ever made. But, you know, it was not a, it was bittersweet, I guess is the best way to put it. And
Right.
I'm just, you know, but my kids are awesome. I love my kids.
So obviously you did something right.
Yes, hopefully.
So, so
Hopefully.
don't worry about it. Okay, so let's talk about disability, illness, stress, the things it can do to your body. I know
Oh,
that's something you haven't shared with a lot of people.
right?
So rip it off.
I told you I like it to get all soggy.
Well, I like
Um,
it soggy.
stress is just, it's horrible. It's, I don't think I even realized I had the stress I had until physically I started seeing it like immerse itself in my body.
Right,
And I think I never paid attention to the signs. I always just thought it was like, oh, it's just I have a rash, or oh, I just think, you know, I don't know what's going on, why my hair is falling out. There were days, you know, I had when I left the retail industry, I went into a different industry altogether because I had a friend working. You know how they say, oh, you want to get out of retail? Why don't you come over, work for us? You know, you're not going to make as much money, but you're going to get some freedom, which I did get Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. Hey, you know, money was okay. It paid the bills. But I got some of my life back at that point because retail will suck up your life real quick and it becomes everything and anything. Always late to
right.
everything. I never had a holiday, you know. I will never shop on things Black Friday
I don't
or the
shop on
day.
Black
I never
Friday
shop on
either.
Thanksgiving. No, not Thanksgiving, but anyway. So, you know, I always dealt with physical signs of it and didn't
I
realize it
remember.
till a doctor said to me, you know, these are all the signs. I can do the blood work, but it's like I want to find something, but I don't want to find something, but I know this is what you're dealing with. So I knew I had stress in my life from the job that I was in. And then one morning I woke up. I remember the day. I had a party planned that day. I was having people coming over. We were having cocktails. It was a big party. I was talking to my boyfriend at the time in the morning, and he said, "Why do you sound funny?" I said, "I just don't feel good." I go, "I've had a headache for a few days. My neck is killing me, but I just think it's, you know, I've been up all kinds of hours getting ready for this party." And he goes, "Are you sure?" And I said, "Yeah, yeah." And then I'm like, God, it's just, I can't get this headache to go. It was all right in here. I just couldn't get it to go away. So I remember getting up and I went to the restroom and I looked in the mirror and I realized like I thought my eyes were just like groggy, like I just wasn't awake yet because it was early. And I look in the mirror and I realized that my eye was closed, but then I opened it and then I couldn't close it again. And the whole left side of my face wasn't moving, all the way down into my neck. And I seriously thought I had a stroke. Like I thought during the night I woke up and had a stroke. I called my mom, I called my sister. They're like, get to the emergency room. You know, if it's a stroke, you need to get there. I literally was like, should I even be driving myself? But at that point, it was just go. So I walk into the emergency room, and long story short, after 2 emergency room visits, they told me they ruled everything out and said it was Bell's palsy. And I was like, what is that? Like, I had never heard of it, didn't know what it was. The pain was so excruciating. Like, literally, my half side of my face was paralyzed. And I couldn't close my eye. I couldn't taste. I couldn't chew. That's why this eye is still a little bit smaller on this side. That's residual from the first onset.
Right.
But I live with it still. Like, sometimes I still get pain. Um, And some people will say, oh, it's a virus that causes it. My doctor says, no, it was the stress that brought it on.
I've always heard stress.
It's stress induced. And I, at the time, knew nothing about it. I just know that I was just like, it's horrible. Let me tell you, it's horrible to go from one day being able to talk and smile and eat like no problem. And the next day you can't even close your eye or smile like that. And it was horrible, horrible recovery time. I went back to work way too soon. I waited a week and went back to work. There is no cure for it. All they can do is give you a steroid in time and kind of do the exercises or the facial stuff. But so it took me a long time to recover for that. And it was just recover from it physically, emotionally, it was, and not having a support system. Like, my family was awesome, but the boyfriend at the time was like, are you okay? Just like, seriously.
You're gonna be okay. Peace out. That was my response.
It's horrible. And I thought I was dealing with stress, or you just don't realize. I guess I internalize it. But then again, not even I want to say it was a year ago, February. No, it was just a year in February. I had my second onset. I was again in a job where, it wasn't stressful because I hadn't been working, but I don't know, maybe because I hadn't been working. I don't know what was going on at the time. And again, I had another onset, and this time it was the right side. So now it wasn't this side, it was the other side. And this time I knew what was coming. So I got to the hospital quicker, and they were able to give me my steroids and my meds. And this time I had a boyfriend who was extremely supportive and got things taken care of. But it's just stress will kill you if you're not careful. It really will. And the problem is you just don't realize what it is until it's almost too late. So I consider those are my warning signs. And my mom always tells me, be careful, don't get yourself stressed out. They know that because the fact to have another onset, it's like, it's not anything I'm looking for. Well, I'm looking for. So I try very careful to have that work-life balance.
Yeah.
And I'm big on that. You and I are both big advocates of work-life balance. You got to have it. Like, especially as a small business owner, it's harder. Mm-hmm. It's harder as a small business owner than it is when you're working a 9 to 5, because you're your business, and to go down for a week when you own a business is a huge deal. So I work very hard to keep the balance so that doesn't become an issue and I don't end up, off, because it affects everything. So
I do my best, but
I know, honey, but you've got way different, yours is, way different than what mine is.
But
so
it's
I'm going to bubble you up.
It's,
I'm going to put you in a bubble.
It's so hard to create a work-life balance when you want to do all these things, mm-hmm. and your mind's firing all these different ideas off, and you want to jump in and do everything.
Yeah, do all the things.
And then you're like, what's going on with my body? Why am I feeling like this? And you try to control the stress, but sometimes there are outside factors that are coming in, like your child's not acting right, or stuff's going on with the person you're in a relationship with, things like that trigger all of that. So, sometimes you can't do that. So how do you keep that part under control?
I think for me is to be I'm not a control freak, so to say. I think in business I'm a control freak, but in personal life, it's so weird. In my personal life, I think I've always liked a man who says, and this is going to sound odd, I know, who's going to say, here's where we're going to go, here's what we're going to do, and X, Y, and Z. And I think a lot of that for me is because I was a decision maker my whole career. Like, I always had to make a decision. This was going to get done. This is going to get done. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. I've got X, Y, and Z. Like I lived a lifestyle where I constantly made decisions. That to have a man finally say to me, here, we're going to go to dinner and here's where we're going to go. It was like, oh, thank God. You know? So
Somebody
now,
knows what they want.
so now I just have to like, I just rely on knowing. Just let me know what's going on. You know, I don't need to control what's going on. I've got a lot going on over here in my life being controlled in my business life that
Right.
as long as I know what's going on over here, I'm good. And I think it makes it easy because you can't do all the things. Because if you try to do all the things, you're not going to do them all well. So you got to pick and choose where you're going to put your efforts. And my efforts right now are business, you know, my small business. And luckily, I've got a good support system right now that allows me to do that and will make those other decisions, you know. So I knock on wood because, you know, it's not easy being a small business owner, and you lose when I left my job to do this full time and walked away from a paycheck every Wednesday, like this was I knew what I wanted to do, and so credit to everybody who's a small business owner. Like it's just
Right.
it's a
It's a
journey.
scary thing to jump into.
It's a journey, and people don't get it. Like, you know, people just don't understand what I do. Sometimes I don't even understand what I do. But, you know, it's you, as long as you know what you're doing and it's your passion and you have a love for it. And my thing is, when I get up in the morning, what's the first thing I want to do? I want to go sit at my computer and start working. So as long as I still have that passion every morning, I know I made the right decision. It's the
Right.
days when I get up and I'm like, I don't want to do this.
I don't want
Then
to
those
play
are going to be
today.
the days that I need to reevaluate what I'm doing. But every morning when I wake up, every day when I wake up right now, it's all I think about is work, 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 work. And it's not an obsession, it's a passion. And that's I don't think people understand the difference. Like, I'm not obsessed with what I do. I love what I do. And so I'm passionate about what I do. And what I love about it all is I don't have to always do one thing. I've learned how to embrace the fact that I can do whatever I want. Like, I can be a planet girl, or I can paint furniture, or I can go make a cookie. I can do whatever I want, and nobody can tell me I can't. And that is so freeing. Like, as a woman, as a business owner, as anything in life, when you can learn that you've got the power to do what you want and not care what anybody else has to say, as long as you know this is your voice, this is your mission, this is where you're going. It is a power that you feel like it's unstoppable. And then all of a sudden it's like, what do I do with it? Where do I go? And that's why I think I delve into so many little different things, because I can. Like, there's nobody telling me, no, what are you doing? You can't do that. And that's the worst thing, is stifling people's creativity and stifle people's passion is horrible. And whoever does it, shame on you, because you don't understand the lives and things you can change. When people are passionate about what they do and they find their voice in what they love, they can make a difference, like Annie said. And I am so thankful that I've been unleashed. They've unleashed the beast, to be able to like do whatever I want to do. Like, I can make this whatever I want to make it. And so it's amazing to me. I'm thankful and blessed every single day, that I'm able to do what I do. And and the end result, yeah, you're doing it, and if you make money doing it, awesome. If you don't, as long as you're doing what you do with the right reasons behind it, and you're doing it for the right reasons, there is a payoff that you'll see. And I think I learned that too when I was in HR. Was like, growing and developing people has always been a passion for me in the industry, in the retail industry. Taking new people, I have people used to come to me and say they wanted to work at Saks, and I would say, you know what, go back and work at Macy's a couple of years and come to see me. Like, that was their thing. And they would come back, and I'd be like, what did you learn? And they'd be X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, okay, let's do this. And you would just watch them grow. And for me, like, being part of that was a payoff for me. Like, seeing them grow and develop and do what they love, it's a payoff. It's not always in the money, not always in the money. If the money's in the end, that's wonderful, but it's not always about the bottom dollars. So luckily, knock on wood, I'm blessed and fortunate every day to get up and do what I love. So, yeah.
So how did you start 4th Street Design Company?
4th Street Design Company. Woo woo.
Or I know you said it was called something else before that.
Yeah,
So.
I've had a couple of business names, but
So let's go back to the beginning and just go through all of it.
So our 4th Street Design Company was not really a company when I first started. I didn't even know I was going to be doing this, quite honestly. Like, didn't know I was going to be in business doing this. Like, if you would have asked me a year and a half ago, I'd be like, cuckoo, crazy people. But I started, actually, oddly enough, I started making wreaths. And I tell you, I'm not a wreath maker. Like, I am not as skilled as some of the people in our group, but I can bust out a wreath or two, right? Deco mesh and whatever. And my mom, I made her a wreath one day, and then somebody said, "Oh my God, I really like it. Can you make me one?" Right? So I was like, "Yeah." Then they were like, "Well, how much?" And then it kind of went from there, and I started selling wreaths here and there. And then I was like, okay, so I started delving into like the DIY, and you get into Pinterest. Like I had never been in Pinterest. So I'm like, what's this? Right? You get into Pinterest.
Down the rabbit hole.
I got sucked down the Pinterest rabbit hole, and then all of a sudden your feed starts showing all this other stuff. Like I am the epitome of the Pinterest rabbit hole sucker. Like I am the viewer. Like if you guys were I probably saw you guys in Pinterest at one point. But then all of a sudden I started seeing things like, paint your own furniture and DIY and all this stuff. And I'm like, and I knew I wanted new furniture, but at that point I was like, furniture's expensive. Like
It's really expensive.
I walked in and it's beautiful, don't get me wrong, but I just couldn't. So I was seeing these videos and this Pinterest stuff, and it was like, okay, I can do this. So I ended up going to a thrift store and I found these chairs. Okay, these chairs were in the trash at the thrift store. That doesn't tell you how old they were. And they gave me 3 chairs and a coffee table for $5. And I was like, I throw those suckers in my car and I thought, I'm going to do something with this, right? So long story short, I painted them. I started painting furniture. Then I did some nightstands for my room. And then I did my headboard and reposted it and started posting it. And then I started learning about chalk paint. And, it just progressed. And then I ended up, because the only place I could get paint out here was an hour away, a little more than an hour away to get it. And it was Annie Sloan. So I go to the place where they sell it, and I started showing her what I was doing. And she was really, the owner of the store was the one who said, I do a market here every second Saturday of the month. Have you ever thought about, your work is really good. Have you ever thought about doing a market? And I was like, no, no. At that time, though, my name was Coachella Creations, because I was like some people, you just need a name for Etsy, because I had put my stuff on Etsy. So I needed a name like that. Like I came up with a name not knowing where I was going with this whole thing, right? So I did the market and I painted for like 3 weeks, just like not knowing what to expect. Like I don't know what to take. Like I've never done a market. I don't know what to expect there. Like so I would hit thrift stores and just start painting. I would paint till, because I was working full time still, I'd paint till like 1 or 2 in the morning, like just painting and just accumulating. My living room was full of stuff. Like David was like, what is going on around here? It's like, we're going to market.
So anyway, I gotta paint.
I think I gotta paint all this stuff. I think I need to learn. I don't even know like to take. So long story short, it was an amazing day. I took about 20 pieces and I think we brought home 6.
That's good.
I was like, yeah, and we were like, what? And people were asking me, do you paint, do you do custom work? Do you have this? Do you have that? Like I saw the interest, and then the hustle mode in me was like, what? Like all of a sudden it clicked.
Right?
What?
I can get paid to do this. Yeah.
And so it just kind of evolved from there. And I knew at that point, as I started to grow social media wise, I needed to clean my act up and be a little more business. And so I needed a name that was going to represent who I was still, and what I do. So I live on 4th Street. I was born and raised. A house I live in now was the house that I was raised in. So this is like my jam. This is my solid. This is home. So it just made sense to be 4th Street. And then design company just kind of left the doors open. When then I had the refurbished furniture and the chair, but it's gone now because it's way more than just furniture. So 4th Street Design Company, because I live in the hood, grew up in the hood. It's still the hood, but it's home, It's home.
It's home. All right. So one more question, or actually two more questions. Next to the last one, what would you tell the 18-year-old Michelle and why?
I would tell 18-year-old Michelle to have finished college, because I never finished college. And I would tell her to go live life before you settle down into, home life. Like I told my kids when they were young, like, finish school or get that education and then go enjoy life, go have fun, go do what you want to do. And then when you're ready to be responsible and bring on a family and do all the other things, then do it. And so I just think it's way easy. It's an experience sometimes that you just don't get that time back. I got to do it just later in life, but if I would have done it earlier, maybe things would have been different. I didn't finish college. Like, I was so burnt out on school at that point that I would just go get my fast food check and go have a good time. But you
Are
know
you
what?
sure we weren't friends?
Go pick up my fast food check and then hit the club on the weekend. But the thing with that is that had I known I was going to end up in the career path I ended up in, I had all the work experience, but I couldn't get the interview because I didn't have a degree.
Right.
Like, there were so many opportunities, there were so many jobs I was qualified for, but because I didn't have a college, and they didn't even care what your degree was in, quite honestly, as long as you'd gone to college at that time.
Yeah.
But I couldn't even get an interview because I didn't have the degree. But if you look at my resume, it spoke for itself, but they were like, the prerequisite is a degree. So I think I taught my kids to be like, that's next level. It's just like going to your next level of school. And so I had one that graduated from college. But Brandon's decided it's not his thing. And I'm like, I'm not going to force you, but you got to figure out what you're going to do in life then, because you can't just be working, just scooting through. You need to be more focused about what you want. So
Yeah.
I think that's what I would have told myself, and then done all the other stuff probably a little bit later. I have no regrets about it all. Like, I love where I am in life and I've learned from everything, but 18-year-old Michelle probably would have finished school. Yeah.
Good answer. So what's next for Michelle, and more importantly, for Street?
What's next for 4th Street? And
For
Michelle?
Michelle first. What's next for Michelle?
Next for
Then,
Michelle. I think for
please.
Michelle, it's so weird because I feel like I've fallen into a new career path. And so even though I have a past and whatever it is, and I've got all that work experience, I feel like, I'm only a year into this business, a little more than a year now. So I'm still new. Like, I'm still fairly new, like a lot of people. And so I'm still learning where my strengths are. I'm still learning where I've got opportunities. As a person, I'm learning self-discipline in a different way because being a small business owner requires self-discipline way different than going to a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
This is my first time never working a 9 to 5, so that's been a whole adjustment as well. And so for me, I still think I have a lot of growth. I think I still have a message. I know there's something for me out there as a person to get out. I just don't know what that message is yet. I don't think I've found it yet. I had somebody say to me, Michelle, what you're doing now may not be what you do at the end. This just may be the catalyst to where you end up. And I really think I'm on my journey. I just haven't found where my message is. And I'm not going to find it. It's going to find me. And it's just a matter of keep doing what I do, keep trying new things. I love the fact that I can try new things and I'm not afraid to fail. And I think I used to be afraid to do a lot of things because I was afraid to fail. And people say to me, look, that didn't work. What happened? Oh, what happened? I thought you were going to do this and that didn't work. And that was part of, being judged holding you back. And now I could give a crap. I don't really give a shit what other people think. I'm going to do it. And if it works, it works. Awesome. And if it doesn't, then at least I can say I tried. If you didn't try, what do you got to say? Like, show me what you're doing.
Show me what you're doing.
Bring it to the table and show me what you're doing. Because if you can't, don't talk to me about what I'm doing when you ain't got nothing going on over there. So I think for me now, it's, finding my voice, finding the power and putting it to somewhere good and useful. And I love AIOB. You know, I love what we do there, but I think that's part of who I am, but I think there's still something more out there, and I just haven't, it'll find me. I just don't know what it's going to be.
Right.
But I'm so open to it. It's just, you know, it's a good feeling.
Good. So, man, I just swirled on a podcast. Oh my goodness gracious.
It's okay, you can edit it out later.
I know, I just totally screwed. Like I was gonna do a follow-up question. You just said something really good, and like my whole mind just went. So I can't even think of what I was gonna say. Okay, so thank you so much for being my first guest.
Oh my God, no, thank you. Like, I'm so honored. Like, I'm like, what story do I got to tell? You know, I listened to your podcast. I've become like a podcast junkie lately. Like, I've listened to podcasts. I listened to yours. I listened to a few others. I listened to a lot of self-development. I listened to a lot of, you know, people who have been in business for a long time. You know, I listened to a little bit of everything. And whoopsies, I have Do Not Disturb on. I don't know why that
I
came
do too.
through. And you know, I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna be like her first guest, and like, what story do I have to give? Like, you know what I mean? I listened to yours, I listened to a lot of people, and I'm honored, you know. Love that you're living in the same home that you grew up in. Yes, thank you. Yeah, we've had this house 40 plus. I'll be 49 this month. And we moved back to this house when my mom, and here's a little story. When my mom and dad got divorced, we were like 10. I was 10, my sister was like 8. And instead of the typical let's sell the house and split the money kind of thing, my mom and dad decided to give my sister and I the house when we turned 18. So, which is odd, right? And whoever the idea it was, I'm very thankful for. So, if you guys don't know, I always talk about mom. Mom will probably watch this later on. You know, mom is on dialysis. We take her
Hi, Mom.
yeah, hi, mom. She goes 3 times a week. And so when she got ill, when her kidneys finally failed, she needed to move out because the house is older. I think they say the house is like 1920, 1930. Like, it's an old house. Like, you can see where they've added on. When I ripped up the carpet, I'm like, oh my God, this house used to be only this big. You can see where they've added on through the time. So,
Right.
you know, so when I moved back to the desert to help take care of mom, she moved out and I moved into the house. And my kids grew up in the same room that my sister and I grew up in. So, and my neighbors it was my grandmother's house, and my grandmother was a huge part of my upbringing, huge. And so I grew up next door to my grandparents. So it's just like, knock on wood, very, very fortunate for those years when I had them, and I can look out my kitchen window and say hi to grandma when she was washing her dishes across the way.
Right.
So my grandparents bought the house wherein my mom got it. So we have generational. It's awesome. Generational houses are awesome. Yeah.
I have
Same thing
Mama's
with you,
house.
Tina.
Yeah,
Huh?
I have Mama's house too.
Yeah.
Yep. So, thank you so much for being my first guest. Thank you for being my partner in all of them
Oh,
business.
thank you.
Thank you for being my Thelma, definitely.
You got it, Louise.
And
Thank you.
I want to thank everybody that tuned in today for this first live. Like I said, this isn't, I wanted to make it a separate part away from Old Main New, kind of, because even though I want women to know it's okay that we all have secrets, we all have struggles that we've been through, we have things that we've had to either survive, struggle through, grow through, you know, we all have those things. And I think as women, we get so caught up with the judgment of others. You said it earlier. We get so caught up with what is everyone going to think about this? What's everyone going to think about that?
Yep.
Oh no, I can't do this because then people will find out about this. We get so caught up in all of that that we don't allow ourselves to do the big scary things and to jump out there and do those things. And you know, this was my calling. I believe that wholeheartedly. I believe this was my calling. I believe that all in on business was one of my callings, and I believe that Old Main New was my calling. Because even though I'm struggling with pain every minute, every day, even though my whole world around me is going bonkers crazy on the daily. I mean, even though I'm dealing with all these different situations, I get up every single morning with joy in my heart, a smile on my face, and I'm
Yep.
passionate about going out and embracing the day. I get
Right.
frustrated, I get snippy, things get on my nerves. I tend to have that like knee jerk reaction,
Yeah.
and I've got to learn to like slow down before I type that message and slow down before I make that comment, because sometimes I don't even mean it that way. It's just I'm working a million things in my head, so I'm not paying attention to what's coming out of my mouth. So
Right.
I mean, we're
I
all
think you're
still,
way better now, though.
I'm working on it.
Yeah, I think that you've gotten way like Tina and I, like she said, we go back to like October, which doesn't seem it really isn't a whole long like length of time, not like we've known each other for years and years, but we worked together constantly. And so even in the beginning, like I think as partners, she's so right. Like we're such a good balance where I'll be like, well, do you really think X, Y, and Z? And she'll be like, blah, 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 blah. I'll be like, well, and then she'll be like, okay, hold on. She goes, or she'll straight out tell me, I just need to get this off my chest and let me just get it off because I'm like, okay, good, good, But in the end, we are a good balance for each other, and I think it's crazy. Did I ever see I was going to be part of this? No, but I tell you, it was on my vision board, girl. I believe in the vision board, people. Do your vision boards, write it down, have a plan, put it on paper, look at it, love it, live it, because it can happen. Nothing is, if you can think it, like if it is a thought in your head and you can think it, it's possible because it's
Yep.
there for a reason. It's a
Like R. Kelly
possibility.
said, believe you can fly.
Yes. Well, we don't want an R. Kelly reference lately. But it's true. Like I totally believe in the vision board. I believe in the put it down. I believe in if you can. It's there for a reason. You guys might think I'm crazy when I say brain dump, but you've got to. If you can think it, there's a reason you thought it. See it, believe it, achieve it. It doesn't have to happen tomorrow. And I think a lot of people think I can't do that. That's not going to happen. Why
You
can't it
can.
happen 6 months from now? Why can't it happen a year from now? But if you eat it and do something a little bit every single day or here and there and you work at it, when it's meant to be, it's going to happen. You just
Yep.
got to like believe that you can do it. Like I'm telling you, don't be afraid to fail. That's my like fearless was my word this year. Don't be afraid to fail. Like
Yep.
there's nothing wrong with failure. Nothing wrong with failing because it just means you're going
Nothing.
to get back up and you'll be stronger the next time. So
Yep.
just do it. Just do it, people.
Just do it.
Just do it.
Nike.
Okay. Yeah, we can say Nike. I know you're
Well,
trying to say goodbye. I'm sorry. I just keep talking.
it's okay. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. And if you're hearing this on the stream on either my Buzzsprout dedicated station, Spotify, or Google Podcasts, thank you so much. And you can subscribe to the channel and get notifications of every time that I have a new episode air.
Yeah.
In the next episode of Share Will, we will be talking about grief. And it will be a solo cast where I'm going to talk about how I worked through losing my grandmother doing her hospice, losing my brother very unexpectedly, and doing hospice for and saying goodbye to my mother, who I fought with almost my entire adulthood. So
Yeah.
look for that in the next episode of Share Will. If you feel that you have a story that you need to share or that you would like to share that could help someone else grow, help them live their truth, please contact me on the Share World Podcast page or on my personal profile, and we will chit chat and get it set up. So thanks so much, guys, for tuning in, and have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.